Ah, the dirty old blog. How's it going? Uh, the dirty old blog again. Yeah, it's nice out. It's getting a little cold, but beautiful out. So today, um, I was on my bike. I had a, it's the way I get around most. I took my car off the road. Geez, over a year, and save money. Well, not having the money. Long story. A little bit of both. So, but I got in great shape. I love being out on a bike, and I had to be somewhere today. And this is one of the. It's been. I've been getting around. Sometimes I walk. Sometimes I ride a bike. But it's over a couple of years now. It maybe even a little bit more that I get around. Maybe more than most. And during hours that would be normally considered working hours, even when I was bartending, I would work nights. So what happens when that you're in that situation is that I'm walking around, and say for now, like today is Staten Island, I was on my bike on hours when people who are doing 9 to 5 are working. So I kind of get a perspective of what's going on that others don't. Only because while the other people are working on. But anyway, I'll give you an example today, and I recorded some of it. The reason why I'm giving a little introduction is because I was on my bike and I'm using a small Go camera, not a GoPro, but anyway, something similar to that. And the the quality of it's a lot of camera movement. I would take it out and shoot when I was can, but and I didn't get everything um, I wanted to, but I got a lot of footage because it's. But I'll give you an example. Some of the stuff that it didn't get. Basically, what I'm babbling about at the moment is that there is so much. Like Staten Island's a very small island. We have one train. Well, there's a few trains, but on one train track. And on the island, we have a police station. It's the Metropolitan Transportation Police. Um, we have the Parks Enforcement. We have the police department, all on this island. And but and even if that's fine, maybe just an overstatement. Uh, and even if what I'm talking about, people may be okay with the surveillance state we're living in. But the problem is have we really been asked? Um, so anyway, today what stuck out for me was there's these huge fiber optic cables, and if you walk down your street, I don't wherever you are, I don't know if it's similar. I took footage of it, but in Staten Island, you have the normal cables, the thin circumference that will run along the street to, and then run to the house, and they're small thin cables, and then you have these huge ca- cables that are just running like, and then in between the lamppost, as if you would marry batteries or some kind of power source. They're married. Each lamppost is married to each other, and I just thought this was odd. And then the other day, actually, it was a few months ago, on the boardwalk, it goes. There's a walk path, which is public property, and all these. This is when they were first tandem tying up these cables to the lamppost. And I asked the guy. He was a private contract, private corporation with a cherry picker. I said, "Well, what's this for?" He said, "Well, it's for Wi-Fi." I said, "Okay," but everything's connected throughout this whole borough. And today, there's three. There's one corporation called Northline, which is a United States corporation. Maybe it's a federal related. National Grid, Con Edison, and another private corporation. Just today, on my one path, working on this system. And then on my way to St. George, by the waterway, Now this could have been 2 years ago. In there was a private corporation which in the street going through a sewer cap, but they had it was a huge operation for. And I just asked, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Well, we're replacing wires after sanding," which makes a lot of sense. You know, if salt water gets in some of the cables, but that's been used for a lot of. And what are they replacing the cables with? And the amount of work, like today I went there and it was at the same spot, there was another team working. You know, we don't give that much attention to these things, really. I mean, honestly, hopefully that's all it is. And hopefully all this network is a malign, benevolent operation. It just doesn't feel it, or it doesn't seem it. Uh, so today, as I was coming down, there's one train track, and it was like there's on the MTA property, which is our property basically, right? There's all these cables were going to one. They have these trailers all over Staten Island,
which goes in here. Which is on supposedly the MTA property, which is our property. And so the MTA, I'll show you. So all these cables are running into here, into this building.
It just seems very strange. Like this one area, it was called Max 7. The Occupational Health Department of the MTA. And I'll show you, I have the video. A lot of people concerned with occupational health. And all these lines were running to this trailer. And then as I was walking, when I was going to, today I was going where I was going, they were working, and all these lines were running to the base, a structural form underneath the Verrazano. And then when I was coming back, there's another trailer with the cables running to the cable and underneath. So apparently it's some kind of system set up. Now my point being, hopefully it is benevolent. But with this new age of smart technology, and if you're not up on what are the possible uses of smart technology, you need to look at it. For example, if you have a smart meter in your home and you have a smart TV and a couple of people with smartphones, someone who has the know-how could basically get a hologram of every person in the room. You could see, it's a different way of looking through that technology. And who knows, that's just the stuff that you hear from people who are in the know with this stuff, but who knows the full extent of it. And with the 5G technology, the frequency that's working on, or the radioactivity, is supposed to be very high. And one of the things with the 5G is it can be focused, almost like a laser. So you have this whole thing set up where you could pinpoint, like you look at Google Map. What if you could use that Google Map with people? But you have this highly concentrated form of frequency that, now use your imagination, what could be used? What does a cell phone do? Just think of how amazing it is that you have this cell phone and you can hear someone wherever they are, and you have all this information coming through this device, which is 3G, 2G, 4G. Now, what if they have something that's supposed to be highly more directional or focused? How do you know what that can do? Negative. So, the point being is, does anybody have a clue what any of this stuff does and who's collecting all of it, there are no checks and balances whatsoever. And for me, I'm just looking around going, what the hell is going on? And some people say, well, it's good to be protected, but do you know how you're being protected? Do you know what this stuff? The other day, I was looking for. There's a huge. I guess I won't name. Well, Amazon's building a huge store or store. Oh, I'm not sure. I mean, it does. It's like, I guess it's a mega store. And so I was like, oh, I was like, oh, maybe I get some work at doing loading. I said I wanted to go check it out. But you have to do it online. And I said, well, let me go anyway. So I went over there, and you can't get in. I mean, you go into the door, and it's like, it's digitally. There's a guy who was walking into the big facility, and he had a scanner. And I said, where's the an office where he could speak to someone about employment? He says, oh, he's like, I'm just a contractor, man, because they're still doing a lot of work. And he swiped his thing and he went in. And then there was a bunch of people, and I asked one young woman there, I was like, they said, well, it's orientation. She says, you have to apply online. And then you come to the orientation. But you can't get in. Which I understand, but it made me think, like, what about when they reverse the power and you can't get out? If you haven't heard of anything about in China where they have nets outside of these factories above 4 floors because people are jumping out of their windows because they had to work them to 18 hours a day or whatever. I mean I know it seems like something that's far fetched, but you look at the history of labor in our country, what people had to fight for, and you look at what the digital technology is allowing. But say if you need a digital card to get into a building, and then all of a sudden you need that digital card to get out. I know it seems far-fetched, but what if, oh, you know what, we're going to have to do extra work today. There's a problem with the door mechanism, and we're going to be locked in here. But you know what, we're going to give you extra time today. And then all of a sudden, no, we're not going to give you extra time. No, well, it looks like we're staying here for 14 hours. I mean, it sounds far-fetched, but it's like, we are relying so much on the digital technologies for the convenience, but we're not realizing how much we're becoming dependent on these digital mechanisms that you really have. We don't even know how they work or who's. And then so I know I'm jumping around a bit, but so after I left the Amazon building, I went to another huge complex where I thought it was the storage space. I thought, well, maybe I'll talk to someone who, I guess this shows how old I am, like the shop steward or something, you know? So I said, what the hell, let me take a chance, I'll go over. So as I went in, there's a fence outside, and there's 4 people with the yellow work uniform warning vest thing on. And I said, hey, how's it going? I was like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but where would I go? Is there like an office here of employment? I just figured I'd take a shot and stop by and talk to someone about the employment situation. He goes, oh, well, listen, he says, this is IKEA. And he says, we're a third party. You actually have to go through us. And we are the third party who deals with IKEA as far as so it's almost like a two-tier system that you have to go through to get a fucking job at IKEA and Amazon loading a truck. This is the level of control that is being placed, and like someone like me who it's odd that would even be looking for a job like this knows how strange it is. But these young people just don't have any idea that what they're walking into, and the level of control. It just seems odd, and maybe it's just me being a little bit out of touch. But the point being, and I know this maybe sounds a little bit far-fetched, but these little subtleties, we really have to be careful about them. It's like having a device, like having to do everything through a computer. is really a kind of you have to buy a device through a corporation. It's almost like it's a type of a shakedown. It's like, oh well, listen, if you want a job, you got to come through me. You have to pay me. You have to pay me $100 just to get in the door. It's a different way of doing it. It's like, all right, well, you have to buy a computer and you have to be online and you have to give us your password so we can not only have access to your computer, but now we need a password so we can send you back to your. It's very invasive into your privacy from a corporation. But this is the new technology, and people talk the new world order and this stuff. It may be just a technological, a new form of leverage that is used through technological devices, which always has been the case. This is just the new digital age, and and another thing is, like, if you look at all your cell phone, your computer, say someone decides, well, no, you're going to be out now, and so whoever is in, there is ways of, if you're a high end, say, even if you're the government or if you're a corporation who deals in sophisticated digital technology, you could hack someone's whole life and become an obstacle between them, being in connection with this digital world. It's a huge way of segregating people, uh, controlling people of how they can interact with the system between this in this digital world. I know that seems to the scope kind of bounced all over the place from cable and fiber optics uh, to the surveillance system, but I really think it's all related. Of this new world we live in, because this idea of control through this digital technology is has affected all our lives, and it's really unnatural. It's so unnatural. It's like the degrees of interference between the ability to have two human beings have any kind of I don't know, maybe deliberation or a ground to stand on, because through this digital mechanisms, it's ones and zeros and some Star Trek beam me up Scotty technology, and it's really it has to be looked at, um, and I think I may have bounced all over the place, but I think it all ties into uh, the new world that's being or has been brought in already, that is digitally based. And the truth is, we have no idea how any of this works. We have a surveillance state that is this merger between the Homeland Security, um, the Pentagon, corporations, all under the name of national security. That nobody has any idea where the stuff's being stored, who's storing it. Like I said, like right on, here's a small example of these cables on off the boardwalk in Staten Island, where all these cables go to a police NYPD camera, yet there's a private corporation truck with a cherry picker guy in his cab on a laptop plugged into the network. Who is this guy? Why should he be plugged into a network that's about surveilling the public, which is supposedly before their protection? So that is just a small microcosm of the macro of the surveillance system. So, and anyway, I'm going to put this together. It's going to be long-winded probably as this. And just a warning that a lot of the cameras jumping all over the place. I'm going to try to cut it and put it together in a coherent way. So, yeah, I guess the point is we really have to start questioning or ask ourselves, how much control am I handing over? How much am I dependent on this? And just ask yourself, if something is a great convenience, what would happen if for some reason that convenience became a deterrent, or that it became a dependency? Ask yourself, because I think once we start asking these questions about how all these convenience uh, devices and services, what if happens when we get so dependent on them that the people controlling it can start restricting? And then once they start restricting, that is how it always has to do with control. We're here to help you. We're here to help you. Oh, now we're restricting stuff. That's where it says it may be great. Now it's a dope fiend deal. Oh, here's a free bag for dope. That'll be $85. You know what I mean? It's the same thing, except they're doing it with digital technology. Uh, Take it easy.
Ah, the dirty old blog.